There are moments in history that no camera captures. No press photographer. No rolling footage. No
Oh, what
official
a
record.
sweet little
Just
thing.
stone
He's
walls,
very friendly.
a
Would you
ticking
like to pet
clock,
him?
and
Yes,
the silence
please.
He's a
so
real crowd
absolute
tension.
it bends the air. This is one of those moments. A grand palace corridor. A golden morning. A father's
It's
hand
wonderful to see
rising
you.
like a wall
And
between his
you as
daughter
well.
and the most
You look
powerful woman
radiant.
in the room.
Thank you.
Not a wave, not a greeting, a barrier. What had been arranged to look like a routine family ceremony. A signature,
A fine day
rite of
for it,
passage,
wouldn't you say?
a quiet milestone.
Indeed, ma'am. A
Was,
pleasure to be
in
here.
truth, something else entirely.
For
it was
you,
a
ma'am.
trap.
Oh,
Designed
how
with
lovely.
precision,
Thank you.
buried
You're
in the
most welcome.
bloodless language
They're
of royal
beautiful.
protocol.
An outfit
And
the
it had
Duke of
taken
Cambridge
years
wore
to
on the
build.
balcony when he
It
was
took
little
one
nipper.
father,
Oh,
one
look, he's
sleepless
got- He's
night,
having a good
and
look, and
11
he
seconds
clearly
of
likes the fly.
silence in a king's private study to dismantle it. This is that story. To understand what happened inside those archive walls, you have to first understand who Lady Louise Windsor is. And more importantly, who she was never supposed to become. She was 20 years old, composed beyond her age, unhurried in a world that rewards performance and noise
The arrangements
above
are in
almost
place?
everything else.
Excellent.
She
Thank you.
moved through
Indeed.
public
A
life
fine
with
day.
a quietness that reminded
Yes,
seasoned
what a
royal
goal!
watchers of an older generation.
Brilliant play.
One
Absolutely
that
brilliant.
believed
I've seen
dignity
that.
was
Best
something
match
you
ever.
practiced when nobody was
A
looking.
beautiful
She
day
had never
for a
wanted
walk.
the cameras.
It
And that
is.
single
So
fact,
lovely.
her disinterest in visibility, made her genuinely dangerous to the people whose power depended on controlling what the public loved.
A fine
Because
ceremony.
visibility
Indeed.
found her anyway.
It was well
Her
done.
connection to
The
the
music
late
was
Duke
excellent.
of Edinburgh ran
A
deeper
fine
than
turnout
bloodline.
today.
She had
Indeed,
inherited
such
his
a lovely
passion
day
for
for
carriage
it.
driving,
And the support is
a demanding,
heartening.
unglamorous
It's crucial we
discipline
maintain
requiring
open
physical
lines of
precision
communication.
and
I agree,
unshakable
Your
nerve.
Royal Highness.
At
Good.
public events, when Louise took the reins, seasoned equestrians noticed. The crowd noticed. And the cameras. Despite every quiet attempt to redirect them toward more senior members of the family, always drifted back to her. That was the problem. And someone, somewhere, had decided it was a problem that needed a solution. 6 months before the archive signing, something happened at a high-profile equestrian event at Windsor that felt small at the time and enormous in retrospect. A senior photographer named Gerald Ashworth. 30 years of royal coverage behind him, a man who had learned exactly where to point his lens and when, was quietly pulled aside by a palace coordinator mid-event. His assignment was redirected. He was told to focus his long lens on the official viewing box, not the driving grounds, not whoever was competing below. Gerald complied. He always complied. But within minutes, he noticed something that made him stop and look around. 3 other photographers had received the same quiet instruction. For photographers, same instruction, same redirection, same subject they were all being steered away from. Louise, mid-competition, flawless, completely unaware she was being managed out of the frame. A former aide who attended that event, speaking later, under condition of anonymity, said something that didn't make sense at the time. The instruction that day had not come from the usual media coordination team. It had come from a different office entirely, one with no formal authority over press arrangements. Nobody followed up on that detail publicly. It was absorbed into the daily noise of royal coverage. Filed away. Forgotten. Until the night a terrified archivist arrived at the Duke of Edinburgh's private residence with a carbon copy of a document that made the photographer's story feel like a rehearsal. The signing ceremony for Lady Louise's formal entry into the royal records was scheduled for the following morning. Someone had already decided exactly how it was going to go, and what it was going to cost her. The Duke of Edinburgh was the last person on Earth they expected to find out.
Oh, what a sweet
found
little
out anyway.
thing.
He's
The
very
knock
friendly.
came at
Would you like to pet him?
11:47 at
Yes,
night.
please.
He's a
3
real
taps.
crowd tension.
Quiet, deliberate, the kind of knock that is trying very hard not to be heard by the wrong person. The Duke was
It's
still
wonderful
dressed.
to see you.
Suit
And
jacket
you
removed,
as well.
collar
You
open,
look radiant.
working through the
Thank
next
you.
morning's schedule at the small writing desk in his private sitting room. His wife Sophie had retired an hour earlier. The house was
A
completely
fine day
still.
for it,
He
wouldn't
did
you
not
say?
call out.
Indeed,
He
ma'am.
simply
A
stood
pleasure to
and
be
walked
here.
to the door. The man in the hallway was
For
named
you, ma'am.
Marcus Webb,
Oh, how
31
lovely.
years old.
Thank you.
You're most
a
welcome.
lower-ranking records
beautiful.
archivist. For years
An outfit
in
the Duke of
household
Cambridge
service.
wore on the balcony
No
when he was
incidents,
little nipper.
No promotions.
Oh, look,
no
he's got-
reason
He's
for
having a
anyone
good
to
look,
have
and he
ever
clearly
paid
likes the fly.
particular attention in either direction. He was still in his work clothes. His face was the color of cold ash. He held out a folded envelope without a word. Inside was a carbon copy of the ceremonial itinerary that had been circulated to senior staff for the following morning. The same document the Duke had already reviewed. But this copy had a second page.
The arrangements are in
The
place.
Duke's version had
Excellent,
not included.
thank you. Indeed,
Marcus Webb
a fine
stood in
day.
the doorway and watched the Duke's eyes move down that second page.
Brilliant
He
play.
watched the
Absolute
exact
brilliant.
moment the
Best
Duke stopped
match
reading
ever.
and went completely still.
A beautiful
What the
day
second
for a
page
walk.
outlined was a procedure
It is.
called a
So lovely.
presentational classification addendum. In plain terms, when a senior royal formally escorts a younger royal into the records chamber and
A fine
physically
ceremony.
presents them to the
Indeed.
keeper of the records,
It was well done.
the presenter
The
holds
music was
temporary
excellent.
classification authority
A fine
over the
turnout
younger
today.
royal's ceremonial
Indeed,
file.
such a lovely
It
day
was a
for it.
procedural
And the support
detail
is
buried
heartening.
so deep in historical
crucial we
protocol
maintain
that almost
open
no
lines of
one outside
communication.
the
I
archive
agree,
division
Your Royal
had
Highness.
ever
Good.
encountered it. Someone had encountered it. Someone had specifically requested it be activated for the following morning. If the Queen Consort walked Louise through those doors, if she presented her in the formal ceremonial sense, which had been warmly, maternally arranged and announced as a gesture of family unity, the keeper of the records was already prepared to open what was called the dormant registry, a secondary ledger, reserved for royals whose public duties are classified as inactive or ceremonially limited. Louise's signature on that page would not simply be a formality of entry. It would be a legal and ceremonial designation, invisible to the public, buried in administrative records, but binding within the household. Her access to the late Duke of Edinburgh's private equestrian archive, his handwritten competition notes, his personal correspondence, the inheritance Louise considered the most meaningful her grandfather had ever left her, would require direct written approval from the Queen Consort every single time she wished to visit it. The warmth of the escort, the appearance of family unity, the maternal hand extended toward a young woman who had no idea what she was walking into. It had all been arranged. Marcus Webb spoke only once before he left. He said, "I was told to file the secondary paperwork before 7 tomorrow morning. I have not filed it yet. I don't know what you do with this. I just know I couldn't not bring it." He was gone before the Duke could respond. The Duke stood alone in the hallway for a long time, the carbon copy in his hand, the house completely silent around him. The signing was less than 9 hours away. What the Duke did next is the part that no one in the palace had anticipated. He did not call a lawyer. He did not call his brother. He did not reach for his phone at all. He sat back down at the writing desk, smoothed the carbon copy flat, and read it again, slowly this time. Every line, every procedural clause, written in the careful, bloodless language of royal administration. The kind of language specifically designed to make something irreversible sound entirely routine. He thought
what a
about a
sweet
particular
little
afternoon
thing.
years
He's
earlier.
very friendly. Would you
His
like to
father,
pet him?
sitting
Yes,
Louise
please.
down
He's a
at
real
table,
crowd tension.
walking her through a binder of handwritten competition notes, specific routes, weather conditions, margin notes
It's
about
wonderful to
particular
see you.
horses.
And
Louise
you
had been
as
16.
well.
You
She
look
had barely
radiant.
spoken the
Thank
entire
you.
afternoon. She had simply listened, turned the pages carefully, and at the end asked if she could borrow the binder to study
A
it.
fine day
The
for
late
it,
Duke
wouldn't
of
you say?
Edinburgh had laughed.
Indeed, ma'am.
The real
A pleasure
laugh,
to be here.
not the public one, and told her she could
For
keep
you,
it.
ma'am.
That
Oh,
memory
how
made
lovely.
something
Thank
harden
you.
in the
You're
Duke's
most welcome.
chest. This
They're
was not about
beautiful.
protocol.
An outfit the
Protocol
Duke
was
of Cambridge
simply
wore on the balcony when he was a
Inside
little
the
nipper.
packaging was a clean,
Oh, look, he's got
simple
what
He's
Yeah.
having a good look, and he
Yep.
clearly likes the
Cutting
fly.
Louise off from the one piece of her grandfather's legacy that was entirely personal, entirely hers, and replacing open access with a permission slip that would require her to ask, every time, in writing, through the proper channels, for the right to read her grandfather's handwriting. He picked up his phone. He did not dial out. He opened his calendar and looked
The
at the morning
arrangements are in
schedule.
place.
The Queen Consort
Excellent,
was
thank
due
you.
to arrive
Indeed,
at the
a fine
archive
day.
corridor at 9:15.
Yes, what a
Louise
goal!
at 9:30. The
Brilliant
keeper of the
play,
records
absolute
would
brilliant.
formally
I see that.
open the
Best
chamber
match
at
ever.
9:45.
A
He had one
beautiful
move.
day for
It
a walk.
required him to be standing
It
in
is.
that
So
corridor
lovely.
before 9:15. It required him to hold a line that no one in this household had ever seen him hold. And it would be noticed. It would be
Fine
documented.
ceremony.
It would reach the
Indeed.
king within
It was
hours.
well done.
The
The
Duke of
music was
Edinburgh had
excellent.
spent the better part of his
A
adult
fine
life
turnout
being
today.
the quiet one.
Indeed,
Not by
such a
nature.
lovely day for it.
Anyone
the
who had
support
watched
is
him with his
heartening.
children knew the man
It's
was
crucial we
warm,
maintain
sharp,
open lines
and
of
fully
communication.
present in
I
any
agree, Your
room
Royal
he entered.
Highness. Good.
But by choice, by the unspoken agreement that the institution ran more smoothly when certain people accepted smaller orbits. He had paid the cost of that invisibility for years without complaint. He set his phone down, and he went to wake Sophie. Whatever it cost him personally, whatever standing he lost, whatever quiet arrangement he had carefully maintained for years got permanently disturbed. His daughter was not walking through those doors on Camilla's arm. She was not signing a page she had never been shown. And she was not spending the rest of her life asking for permission to read her grandfather's handwriting. Sophie was already awake when he reached the bedroom door. She was sitting at the edge of the bed, still in her robe, phone face down on the nightstand, hands folded in her lap. She looked at him the way a person looks at someone they have been married to long enough to read without words. Her eyes dropped to the carbon copy in his hand. She did not ask what it was. "How bad?" she said. He laid the document flat on the bed beside her and watched her read. She did not rush. She did not gasp. When she reached the clause about the dormant registry, her jaw tightened, barely visible, a single muscle, a single second, and then her face went calm. She looked up. "Does Louise know any of this?" "No." "Good." She stood. "Then she wakes up tomorrow morning thinking this is a normal day. We keep it that way." They did not sleep. At 9:02 in the morning, the Duke arrived at the archive building with Sophie and Louise. He told them to wait in the reception anteroom. And then he walked ahead, alone, down the long corridor lined with oil portraits and brass lamp fixtures, toward the heavy oak doors of the records chamber. His footsteps were measured. His face was unreadable. He arrived at 9:08. When he pushed open the door without knocking, the keeper of the records, a senior administrator named Reginald Ashford, 63 years old, 22 years in service, looked up from the document table with the expression of a man who had not expected company this early, and certainly not this particular company. On the table
what
in
a
the
sweet
center,
little thing.
laid open
He's very
and
friendly. Would you like to pet him?
bookmarked with
Yes,
a silk
please.
ribbon,
He's a real
was
crowd
not the
attention.
primary ledger. It was the dormant registry. The substitution had already been made. The Duke closed the
It's
door
wonderful
behind him.
to see you.
He did not slam
And
it.
you as
He
well.
closed it with the
You look
careful,
radiant.
deliberate
Thank
control
you.
of a man who understood that what happened in the next 4 minutes would determine everything, and that losing composure now would hand every
A fine
advantage
day
to the
for
wrong
it, wouldn't you
side.
say?
"Where's the
Indeed,
primary
ma'am.
ledger?"
A pleasure to be here.
Reginald's mouth opened. Closed.
For
He
you, ma'am.
glanced down at the
Oh,
dormant
how lovely.
registry
Thank
as though
you.
seeing
You're
it
most
for the
welcome.
first time.
They're
It
beautiful.
was a performance.
An outfit the Duke of
had
Cambridge
no
wore on the
patience.
balcony when he was a
Where's
little
the
nipper.
primary ledger?
Oh look, he's got
Well, he's
his...
having a
Reginald
good look, and he
crossed
clearly
the
likes the
wooden
fly.
cabinet on the far wall, produced a key from his vest pocket, and opened the lower drawer. Inside, face down, was the original unrestricted registration document, the primary ledger, bearing the names of every senior royal who had formally entered service on their own terms, on their own page, in their own right. It had been filed away,
The arrangements are in place.
hidden behind
Excellent,
a locked
thank you.
cabinet
Indeed,
door
a
as though
fine
it were a
day.
discarded draft.
Yes,
The Duke
what
took
a
it on
goal!
himself. He carried it to the
Brilliant
table
play,
and set it
absolutely
down
brilliant.
beside the dormant
Best match
registry.
ever.
He looked at both
A
documents side
beautiful
by
day
side
for a
for
walk.
exactly 3 seconds.
It is. So
Then he
lovely.
picked up the dormant registry and handed it back to Reginald without a word. At 9:13, he heard footsteps in the corridor. Not the measured
A fine
footsteps of
ceremony.
a small family
Indeed.
party.
It
The
was well done.
coordinated,
The
layered
music was
footsteps
excellent.
of a formal escort.
A fine turnout
The Queen
today.
Consort's
Indeed,
personal
such a lovely day
secretaries,
for it.
moving
And
ahead
the
to
support
announce
is
the way they
heartening.
always did when
It's
Camilla
crucial
was
we
arriving
maintain
somewhere
open
she
lines of
considered her
communication.
territory.
I
The
agree,
Duke
Your Royal
positioned
Highness.
himself
Good.
in the center of the room, in front of the document table, facing the door. The door opened. Camilla entered first. Deep red dress, a deliberate choice. The kind of color that commands a room without needing to raise its voice. 2 secretaries behind her, and visible through the doorway beyond them, Sophie and Louise, who had clearly been collected from the anteroom during the 60-second window the Duke had not accounted for. Camilla's eyes swept the room. They found the Duke. They found his position, standing, centered, unmovable. Something in her expression recalculated. Her gaze moved to the document table. She saw the primary ledger, open. She did not see the dormant registry. The muscle at the corner of her jaw tightened. Exactly once. She extended her hand toward Louise and said with practiced warmth, "Come along, my dear." The Duke stepped forward. His hand came up flat, firm, fully extended, positioned directly between Camilla's outstretched arm and his daughter. The room stopped. Louise's eyes went wide. Sophie placed a hand on their daughter's arm. The 2 secretaries froze. Reginald Ashford appeared to be attempting to become part of the wall behind him. And Camilla's hand, gold bracelet catching the light from the high window above the portraits, hung suspended in the air, grasping at nothing. The Duke's voice, when it came, was so quiet and so absolute that it required no volume to fill every corner of that room. "You will not present her," he said, "and you will not stand beside her at that table." Camilla drew herself up. "The king has approved this arrangement personally. You are creating a scene in front of staff over a procedural formality, and I will not." "The dormant registry was already open on that table when I arrived," he said. "The primary ledger was locked in a cabinet. That is not a procedural formality. That is a substitution. And you know exactly when it was ordered." The silence that followed was the loudest thing any person in that room had ever heard. Camilla looked at him for a long moment. Then she looked at Louise. Something
what a
crossed her
sweet little
face.
thing.
Not
He's
guilt,
very friendly. Would you
not
like to pet him?
remorse,
Yes,
but the cold
please.
He's a real
recognition
crowd
that a
tension.
calculation she had spent considerable time constructing had been interrupted by a variable she had not anticipated.
It's
The
wonderful to
variable was
see
a
you.
father who had
And
been awake
you as
since
well.
midnight.
You
She
look
pulled her hand
radiant.
back.
Thank you.
She turned to her senior secretary. Her voice was controlled. Inaudible at the distance Louise was standing. And then Louise,
A fine
20
day
years
for it,
old,
wouldn't you say?
composed,
Indeed,
having
ma'am.
absorbed
A pleasure to be
everything in
here.
the room without being given a single
For
word
you,
of
ma'am.
explanation.
Oh, how
spoke into
lovely.
the
Thank you.
silence.
You're most
Did I
welcome.
do something wrong?
They're
Is
beautiful.
that why they want me in a
An
different
outfit the
look?
Duke of Cambridge
The
wore
Duke
on the
of
balcony
Edinburgh
when he was
stopped
little nipper.
breathing for a moment.
Oh, look,
Because
he's got
he
his...
was
He's having a good look, and he
quiet,
clearly likes the fly.
undefended, heartbreakingly reasonable, was not just the confusion of a young woman who didn't understand a document. It was the accumulated weight of every moment she had been quietly moved out of a frame without being told why. Every public event where her placement had been adjusted. Every camera that had been redirected away from her. Every moment she had
arrangements are in
absorbed
place?
without complaint
Excellent,
because she
thank
had been
you.
raised
Indeed,
to be
a fine
gracious
day.
and had, somewhere
Yes,
along the
what a
way,
goal!
mistaken her own grace
Brilliant
for
play,
invisibility.
absolutely brilliant.
She wasn't asking
Best
about the
match
legend.
ever.
She was asking about all
A
of it.
beautiful day
He
for
reached
a
out
walk.
and took her hand.
It is. So
His
lovely.
grip was steady in a way the rest of his body was not. "You did nothing wrong," he said. "You have never done anything wrong." Then he turned toward the
A fine
document table,
ceremony.
still
Indeed.
holding her hand.
It was well done.
And walked her
The
forward.
music was excellent.
Past Camilla, past the
A
secretaries,
fine turnout today,
past Reginald
Indeed,
Ashford,
such a lovely
who
day
moved
for
aside
it.
without
and the
being
support
asked,
is heartening.
directly to the primary
It's crucial
ledger,
we maintain
open on the
open
table,
lines of communication.
exactly where he had
I
placed
agree,
it.
Your Royal
He
Highness.
picked up the pen
Good.
from the silver tray and held it out to her. Louise looked at the open page. She looked at the names written above the line designated for hers. Generations of royals who had stood in this exact room and made their mark in this exact record. Her grandfather's name was 3 pages back. She had memorized its placement the first time she had been shown the archive. She took the pen. Her hand was steady. She signed her name. The ink settled on the page. The keeper of the records stepped forward and pressed the official seal beside the signature with the quiet, mechanical professionalism of a man who understood that the best contribution he could make to this particular moment was to simply do his job correctly. It was done. Louise exhaled. She looked at her father. And for just one moment, one unguarded, unscripted, unheld moment, she pressed her forehead against his shoulder the way she had as a small child. And the Duke of Edinburgh closed his eyes and held his ground. Behind them, in the doorway, Camilla stood with her phone to her ear. Her voice was inaudible, but the expression on the face of the secretary standing 3 feet away from her was not. It was the expression of someone watching a conversation travel in a direction they had not anticipated. The footsteps that came down the corridor 60 seconds later were heavier than a secretary's. Longer strided, deliberate. Cornelius Drake, the king's most senior personal aide, 31 years in royal service, a man who had never once been sent somewhere good was happening, stopped at the doorway, looked at the room, looked at the open primary ledger, looked at the Duke. His Majesty would like a word, he said. Both of you. The king's private study on the East Wing is a room most people in the household have entered only once and remembered in precise detail for the rest of their lives. The Duke had been in it 4 times. Each occasion had required him to be calm in a situation that was not calm. This was the 5th. When the king turned from the window, his face was the face of a man holding 2 things simultaneously that could not coexist without one of them breaking.
Oh,
He
what
looked
a
at his
sweet
brother
little
first.
thing.
He's
The
very
ledger has
friendly.
been
Would you like to
signed.
pet him?
Not a
Yes,
question.
please.
He's a
Yes.
real crowd tension.
The king nodded once. His eyes moved to Camilla. She made her case. Smoothly, calmly,
It's
in the
wonderful
tone
to
of a
see
woman
you.
who had spent
And you
decades
as
turning
well.
her version
You
of
look
events
radiant.
into the
Thank
official
you.
version. The dormant registry had been reviewed by legal counsel. The escort arrangement had been designed to support Louise, not
A fine
limit her.
day for it,
The
wouldn't
Duke
you
had
say?
misread the document.
Indeed, ma'am. A
His
pleasure to be
reaction
here.
had been disproportionate. She delivered
For
all of
you,
it
ma'am.
without flinching.
Oh, how
the
lovely.
Duke let her
Thank
finish.
You're most welcome.
Then he reached into
They're
his jacket
beautiful.
pocket and
An
placed
outfit the Duke of
carbon
Cambridge
copy.
wore on the
The
balcony when
document
he was a
Marcus
little
Webb
nipper.
had carried through the
Oh,
night.
look, he's got
Well, he's
his...
having a good look, and he
Yep.
clearly likes
He
the
said
fly.
nothing. He simply placed it there and waited. The king picked it up. Read it. Read it again. Set it back down with a deliberate, careful flatness that was the most controlled thing in the room. The silence lasted 11 seconds. The Duke counted them. When the king spoke, he did not address the classification clause. He did not address the dormant registry
arrangements
or
are
the
in
locked
place.
cabinet or the
Excellent,
Windsor
thank you.
photographer
Indeed,
instructions.
a fine day.
He looked at his wife and said,
Yes, what a
in a
goal!
voice drained of all ceremony,
Brilliant play.
was
Absolutely
Louise
brilliant.
informed about the
Best
secondary
match
page?
ever.
Camilla said nothing.
A beautiful
That
day
silence
for
was
a
its own
walk.
answer. And
It
the
is
king,
so
a
lovely.
man who understood better than almost anyone alive the cost of choosing image over truth, let it sit there in the center of the room without covering
A
it.
fine
He
ceremony.
turned to his brother.
Indeed. It was well
Louise's
done.
record
The
stands
music was
aside.
excellent.
The primary ledger
A
is
fine
the official
turnout
document
today.
of record.
Indeed,
Nothing
such a
else will
lovely
be
day
filed.
for it.
And the
Duke
support
picked up
is
the carbon
heartening.
copy from the desk.
It's crucial we
returned it to his
maintain
pocket.
open lines of
He thanked his brother
communication.
quietly.
I agree, Your
And he
Royal
left.
Highness. Good.
By noon, an official palace statement had been released. For sentences confirming Lady Louise Windsor had completed her formal entry into the royal records that morning. A private family milestone. No mention of an escort. No mention of any document other than the primary ledger. In every household that read it, the statement was perfectly unremarkable. In the household that issued it, every single person who had been in that corridor at 9:15 knew exactly what 4 sentences of palace language had just been used to bury. What none of them knew, what the Duke himself would not discover until 3 days later, was that Marcus Webb had submitted his resignation that same morning, before the signing, before the confrontation, before anyone knew how the day would end. He had left one handwritten note in his personnel file. It said, "I was asked to file the secondary paperwork. I chose not to. I cannot explain that choice in language this institution would accept, so I will not try." His resignation was processed with a speed that violated standard HR protocol by 11 working days. The only office with jurisdiction over records personnel resignations at that level. The only office with the authority to accelerate that paperwork was the same office that had originally approved the dormant registry arrangement. The record is signed. Louise is protected, but Marcus Webb is gone. And that chapter, the one about what happened to the young man who knocked on a door at 11:47 at night because he simply could not, that is the chapter the palace has not yet allowed to be written. 3 days after the signing, Louise and her father walked the grounds together in the late afternoon, amber lights spreading low across the grass, the comfortable quiet the two of them had always been able to share. She had not pressed for an explanation. She had not asked to revisit the archive room. She had moved forward, in the way she always moved, with a steadiness that people twice her age spend years trying to manufacture. But 3 days out, she asked,
A
"Did you know what
beautiful
was going
day
to
for
happen
a
before we
walk.
got there?"
It
The
is
Duke was
so
quiet for a
lovely.
long moment. The kind that is not avoidance, but honesty in its truest, most careful form. "I knew enough," he said. She
A
nodded.
fine ceremony.
She understood.
Indeed.
The way
It
children
was well
of
done.
complicated
The
families
music was
always
excellent.
understand. That enough
fine
was carrying
turnout
a
today.
great deal of weight in
Indeed, such a
that
lovely
sentence.
day for it.
That it
And the
contained a
support is
sleepless night.
heartening.
A document
It's
read
crucial
under
we
lamplight.
maintain open
A
lines
conversation
of
with
communication.
Sophie at 2
I
in the
agree,
morning.
Your Royal Highness.
A
Good.
decision made alone at a writing desk with 9 hours left on the clock and everything at stake. She slipped her arm through his as they walked. There is a particular kind of strength that never makes the news. It doesn't arrive with a press release or a public statement or a raised voice. It arrives at 11:47 at night in the form of 3 quiet knocks on a door. It arrives in a man who has spent years accepting invisibility and chooses, on one ordinary morning, to become something else entirely. It arrives in a daughter who signs her name in the right book without ever knowing how close she came to signing it in the wrong one. The Duke of Edinburgh did not win because he was powerful. He won because he paid attention, because a young archivist made one courageous, career-ending choice, because a father's instinct, when it finally fired, burned through decades of careful compliance in a single night. Lady Louise Windsor's name is now permanently recorded in the primary ledger. Her grandfather's equestrian archive is accessible to her whenever she chooses to visit it. No permission slip required. No intermediary. No locked cabinet standing between her and the handwriting of the man who first put the reins in her hands. That is the thing that mattered. The signature on the right page. Everything else. The raised hand, the carbon copy, the 11 seconds of silence in the king's study, the 4-sentence palace statement. All of it was simply the wrapping around that one central fact. But the question that still does not have a clean answer, the one sitting quietly in an administrative file that no photographer's lens is powerful enough to reach, is what became of Marcus Webb, a young man who did not wait to see if his risk paid off, who did not stay to be thanked or acknowledged or protected, who simply delivered what he knew and then stepped out of the story entirely. Whether his courage cost him more than his job is the chapter this palace has not yet allowed to be written. Some stories end in archive rooms. Others move into quieter corridors and wait.